Welcome into the Buck James Show, presented by Bryant Family Pharmacy. Michael Westbrook, along with head coach Buck James, and the Hornets coming off a 42-0 win over Little Rock Central at home. Coach in the second home game of the year, and the team's now 5-0, 3-0 in conference play, and it's like we're writing the same record book that we wrote last year. At least I hope so. But pretty similar game to what we experienced in years past against Central. Haven't lost to them since 2007, I believe, is the information I was given. And it was really just a first-half performance that was dominating. How do you sum up the victory against Central?
Well, I thought we came out and played well. I thought our football team was ready. Our mentality was right. We came out and attacked them offensively. Our defense came out and drove them backwards. You know, Coach Shelton is taking over that program, and he's doing a good job. They're better. I think that, when you take over a rebuild like that, it takes a few minutes to get it done. And I thought their kids played extremely hard. I thought they didn't quit, and I thought our kids played, extremely well. They played hard, they played fast, and I'm proud of the way our football team competed.
Coach, you set the tone early with Mytorian Singleton. You get him downfield on the big long pass play. Is that going to be important in this stretch coming up to kind of get him? Not to say he's had a down year, but he had such an explosive sophomore season that is it going to be important to get him a little more involved down the stretch here?
Absolutely. I think we've got to get our playmakers the ball, and I think that's what Coach Bach and our offensive staff did was, try to get the ball to Mytorian early, get it to Chris Ganaway and give it to James Martin and let those guys do what they do and then get the whole offense involved in it. But I thought we had a great game plan. I think that's what we got to do most games is get those guys involved, and it opens up the rest of our game.
So I was going to ask about Ganaway because we're starting to see him a little bit more at wide receiver or on that slot position or maybe even out of the backfield, making some catches. Just another way you can get a playmaker involved, I guess, and is that going to also kind of be part of the game plan you're going to have to go to a guy to get more carries and like James Martin maybe in these big games, and so is that a way you can get Ganaway more involved?
Yeah, I think so. And, Daniel Anderson is really coming around as well. And I think, more that we can get those guys on the field, the better, and the different ways we can get them on the field. And I think Coach Bach, like I said, and their staff have done a great job of rotating those guys and, working on things that we need to do, be able to practice. But the same thing we do on defense. If you watch, we play a lot of guys defensively and a lot of rotations. And, sometimes on offense you score points and you don't get those rotations like you want them. But trying to keep guys fresh, trying to keep them involved in the game and involved in the game plan, I think is half the battle. And letting those guys go out and play football that are capable of doing that.
Well, let's talk about defense then, because it was really just a stifling performance in the first half. I don't know how closely you looked at the stats, but Central had negative 52 rushing yards at halftime. And there were guys like Nick Miller, who we've not talked about a lot this year, making plays. Will Cornelius had an interception in the game, and I know that was big, and everybody was excited to see him get that. But you had some guys who we've not talked about a whole lot this year who played really well.
Yeah, and that's what we want to do. We want to be able to create depth. I've been talking about that all year with our team. I've been talking about it to anybody in the media, is that we've got to create depth, and that's what we've tried to do with our JV teams and trying to get these guys ready. We had an opportunity to play a lot of young guys early in meaningful minutes, and that's what makes your football team. You can't have a letdown. You got to have guys that are playing at a high level. You got to stay sharp. And you've got to be focused each and every week and each and every play, because in this conference it only takes one bad half, one bad series, one bad game, and you're looking at the back door. And I think our kids got to understand that. Our coaches understand it. And creating depth gives us competition at those spots, and I think that's going to make us a better football team.
I wish I could remember the one exact play that I had in mind, but the starters were really encouraging the backups when they were out there. Maybe you remember the play. I don't know exactly which one it was, but how important is that, too, for those starters to stay active in the game and make sure that they're doing their part from the sidelines?
Well, that's very important. To me, it is. That's part of building your team culture. And they were getting with Mauricio Sanchez.
That was it, yeah.
He was out there and getting to play, and he's one of our team favorites. Our kids love him, and he was out there, and they found out he was out there, and he did a great job of keeping everything in front of him. Those kids got excited, and Mauricio was our First Southern Baptist Church player, a fourth quarter player of the game. And, that's what that award's about. It's about guys that come in there and make an impact. They do it in practice every day. And, we're proud of Mauricio and what he brings to the table for our football team. But our kids got excited, and that's what athletics is all about: is cheering on your teammates, finishing ball games, and being excited that they're doing well.
Okay, also, everything we've said kind of sums this up already, but the turnover battle, you guys won that 3-0, and you've got to do that going forward as well. So talk about the importance of that and how much emphasis is put on the turnover battle from here on down the stretch.
Well, I think if you watch a game on Saturday or Sunday, I think it's the same thing. You look at Conway and Cabot. Conway had 4 turnovers. Cabot was able to beat them. Some people might call that upset, but Cabot's got a good football team too. The same thing can happen to us in our next 4 games. If we go out there and turn the ball over, have a lot of penalties, play sloppy, then anything can happen. You've got to be sharp. You've got to take care of the ball. You've got to be disciplined about the penalties and doing your job. And we can't overemphasize that with our football team. And, we've got to learn small lessons, and we got to learn them during the week. We got to learn them from other teams. We got to learn it on game film, and then we got to be able to execute that on Friday nights.
So it's Little Rock Southwest this week, and in their young program, they've had just the 1 win this year against Central. I think they had a win last year as a forfeit. But the only question the broadcaster has is, are they still running the triple option? Is it going to take me a while to find the football out there?
It's very difficult, what their uniforms are, and it's hard for the defense to find the football. But they're talented. They've got some athletes, and they do a good job of running that offense. And you've got to tackle your area. You can't look for the ball. You've got to play assignment football. And when you do that, and it's only time you do it one time a year, it makes it very difficult. And so our kids are going to have to be disciplined. They're going to have to make tackles in space, and they're going to have to tackle their area. And not necessarily where the ball goes, but who's got the ball. And you never know on that until it comes out pitch or the quarterback has it and the dive back is 25 yards down the field. So we've got to do a great job of being disciplined and tackling the football.
Do you anticipate them throwing the football much at all in that offense?
Well, they will throw it, and that's the thing about it is when they throw it. And, usually they wait till you're overplaying the run game, and then they're wide open, and you've got to be disciplined in that. You've got to read your keys. You got to be where you're supposed to be, and you got to do what you're supposed to do. And that's the beauty of that offense, and people don't run anymore because it's, slow in doing it, and the game tempo matters to you. But we've got to do a great job of being disciplined, tackling the ball in space, and not letting them throw the ball over our head for big plays.
And lastly, Coach, you've watched more film on them, but are they protecting the ball? Are they putting it on the turf a lot? Is there going to be a chance to get some turnovers?
Well, anytime you run that offense and you're running, double or triple option, you're going to put the ball on ground. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And, if you remember back in the days when Oklahoma and Nebraska and all those teams did that stuff, they could still score 50 points a game. And, and they're getting a big game, it'd be 21-14. So you got to, it comes down to possessions. It comes down to the opportunities you have. And you got to score to make them, have to go 3rd and long, 4th and long to be able to get their offense going. And hopefully that's our game plan will be effective and we can do those things.
All right, Coach. Well, that's all the questions we have. Thanks for the time.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
Again, if you're tuning in for the pregame, kickoff is right around the corner. Thanks for watching the Buck James Show presented by Bryant Family Pharmacy.